Welcome to Explain America. I'm your host, Kyle Becker. Well, you might have been following the saga with Adam Schiff and this whistleblower who in 2017 blew the cover off of Schiff's declassification edit. Welcome to Explain America. I'm your host, Kyle Becker. Well, you might have been following this Schiff saga and the newly released documents that absolutely blow the lid off of his operation there to illegally leak classified information to news outlets like the New York Times, the Washington Post, and even the Wall Street Journal. The whistleblower brought forth damning information, and I went through it late last night. It was about 250 pages of FBI documents. And this isn't the newer FD 302 witness statement. These are documents that were taken at the time in 2017. And hoo boy, it really puts some teeth to these allegations. And I'm going to give you the important implications of this and why Schiff might be facing 20 years jail time at the end of this. So before we get into that, please like, share, and comment Explain America. We appreciate your support for common sense journalism. Well, Adam Schiff, he is the current senator, and he was formerly on the House Intelligence Committee for the Democrats when they were in the minority. And one of the things they did is they coordinated, according to a whistleblower, to leak classified information to make it disparaging to Donald Trump and to potentially get him indicted. So this was nothing less than a coup that was planned on his part and those of the staffers in his room. But one brave whistleblower stood up. And this is according, if you look at the new documents, a Republican staffer actually talked to this person. And this person had served with distinguished service for 12 years, according to the Democrats, but they were fired for supposed lack of party loyalty. And what this whistleblower wanted to do is let them know that, well, what they were doing was treasonous. So this person blew the whistle and got actually fired. So this whistleblower, bravo to you for doing the right thing and for following your conscience. You know, the ends do not justify the means, and you should follow the law even when it comes to classified information. Well, one of the things about this case is that each count that you can document in here, and there are counts, and I went through it, there were a number of cases where there's classified information that was believed to have been linked to, for example, Ellen Nakashima at the Washington Post. There were a handful of reporters at the New York Times and a few reporters at the Wall Street Journal as well. And these information gatekeepers within the intelligence community, well, they were bottlenecking the information. In other words, they were cherry-picking information to make Trump look bad and to make it look like he was in cahoots with Russia and colluding with them in the election. And so they took these, and now we know just from analysis that it was complete hogwash, that there were very weak sourcing within the community. And even former NSA chief Mike Rogers, he, at the time he was NSA chief, he absolutely just would not go along with this and disagreed. So I definitely followed the reasoning of Rogers quite a bit. And it's really interesting to look at these documents yourself. But the point is that Schiff, he is now credibly accused, and there are potentially two witnesses, this Republican staffer secondhand, and the minority at the time staffer, who is the Democratic Party, who can testify against him. And their testimony can be used in grand jury proceedings and in a court of law at a trial. So Schiff can face an accuser in this case who can accuse him of criminal activity, and in this case, a conspiracy. And you know what the interesting thing about a criminal conspiracy thing is? There's no statute of limitations, especially if the criminal conspiracy is still ongoing. So even if Schiff has been made statements in the last year perpetuating this Russian collusion hoax, he is still propagating this conspiracy, and he can be brought criminally liable for this. So this is potentially a game changer where you actually see the origins of criminal conspiracy here. Now, I'm going to go to a former U.S. attorney. His name is Brett Tolman. He was on with a former colleague of mine, Benny Johnson. And on his show, he talked about the consequences for Schiff. And you're not going to believe this because it goes well beyond fines of $250,000. We're talking 20 years in prison, hard time, depending on the counts. You're going to want to see this.
Every American would say, yeah, absolutely, you shouldn't leak classified information. We don't want that to be something that you can do or get away with. Or if there's a temptation to do that and get paid for it, then the penalties should be very severe. So can you talk me through, like, what would the penalties look like for an average individual leaking classified information?
Yeah, I mean the fine is up to $250,000 for every leak that's charged. So it depends on the counts in the indictment. Also, keep in mind some of the punishment hinges on the purpose that the classified leak or the possession of classified documentation illegally. So the purpose becomes very important. If you'll recall, Comey, when he said no prosecutor would prosecute Hillary Clinton for having classified information, I mean, it was just an outright lie. But there was always this question, this debate: what was the purpose of it? Was it just sloppiness? Same with Joe Biden. Was it sloppiness that he had all of these? That he used the classified documents to write his memoirs. Was there anything truly nefarious about it? And there was some analysis of Donald Trump. But with President Trump, it was just, you had him, we're going to go after you because that's how we're going to apply the law. But in reality, you have to look at the purpose to see whether or not there are aggravating factors. Here, I believe this was, in essence, the beginning of a conspiracy to take down a president, to impact his ability to lead. There are other statutes, conspiracy statutes, interference with official proceedings, etc. There's there's question. A lot of people have question about treason. Is it treason? You probably don't satisfy the elements for treason, but there are some related crimes that could come into play. And if you found that the individual was doing it in an effort to undermine the United States, you're looking at potential penalties of up to 20 years in federal prison.
Well, thank you for watching Explain America. We appreciate your feedback on this.